Now I'm going to turn to Mrs. Olena Voloshyna. She is the head of the IFC office in Ukraine. As you know, the IFC is the private sector arm of the World Bank, and together with Ukraine Invest can help foreign investors into Ukraine. So Mrs. Voloshyna will talk about some of the financing tools that IFC provides. And so please, Mrs. Voloshyna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Romina. Дуже дякую, пане Віталій. Після вашої такої надихаючої спіч дуже гарно після цього говорити про фінанси. Сергій, дуже дякую вам також за дуже такий змістовний аналіз і дуже просила би вас надіслати копію презентації, як інші учасники. I'll switch to English if you don't mind. I was just thanking both speakers. I think Ukraine Invest did an excellent job in putting together the analytics, which I'm certainly going to be able to use in my work. But let me tell you a little bit about IFC and what we have been doing and what we can now offer to Ukrainian businesses. Of course, the Russian invasion caused a significant contraction of the Ukrainian private sector. It turned out to be incredibly resilient. I never expected that the Ukrainian private sector would be able to continue operating, financing its employees, paying taxes, financing rebuild and reconstruction whenever the assets were destroyed or partially destroyed, and also supporting the communities. So the private sector has really demonstrated its ability and its support of Ukrainian people. But at the same time, before the war, the private sector accounted for 70% of the country's GDP. And the GDP contracted, and hence the private sector contracted significantly. European Business Association has recently conducted a survey, and the result of the survey shows that 83% of Ukrainian businesses dropped their production. 40% experienced direct losses, and 25% lost their assets to occupation. And some of those cannot take them back. And when they do, as one of my clients did in the Kherson region, it took him 2 or 3 months to get to the field. And it's going to take him a good 2, 3, or if not 4 months to repair the equipment, which was highly sophisticated European equipment. As you know, the World Bank did a study. It was called Rapid Damage and Needs Assessment. The bank did it. The first part of the work was done in December, and then they did an update, which was just presented 2 weeks ago. And according to that study, the needs of Ukraine's economy for reconstruction are estimated at $420 billion. Kyiv School of Economics made a calculation that the private sector alone needs at least $25 billion per year. So the needs are enormous. And as an institution that is focused on developing the private sector, the IFC is trying to take the lead and help this private sector get access to financing. We didn't stop during the war. Since April 2022, we have invested $150 million into the country's economy. The bulk of it was trade because we needed to support export and import operations. But some of the financing went towards purchase of critical imports like diesel fuel, production of critical materials like food for Ukrainian people, supporting IT sector with investment in Horizon. We also provided financing to a large international agricultural commodity trader because Ukraine is an important player and will continue to be so, I'm confident, a significant player in dealing with the global food security agenda. So in December 2022, the board of IFC endorsed a total financing package of up to $2 billion that IFC is ready to finance in the year 2023-2024. Of this 2 billion, 1 billion is coming from IFC's own account, and 1 billion we expect to raise from international partners. We are now in the process of discussions with several international partners and governments on contributing to that facility. And in parallel, we started looking for projects where we could invest. So the analysis that was done by Sergei and his team of the construction materials sector would be very, very handy. We're also going to be complementing the work that the World Bank is doing. We will be doing a deep dives in several of the sectors to see where the potential for the private sector participation is. So we will be doing some analytical research as well, and it would be good to compare where we come out on that research. Now, back to the $2 billion package, it is called ERA, Economic Resilience something. We're good at abbreviations at the World Bank Group. But in essence, it's the amount of funding that is available for Ukrainian private sector companies. We usually finance larger companies directly. And for smaller and medium-sized businesses, we partner with local financial institutions. Actually, Ukrainian banking sector also proved to be quite resilient. So they needed support with trade. And now they're quite liquid. So the instruments we're looking at are risk-sharing facilities with banks and partial credit guarantees that would allow Ukrainian commercial banks to reach out to more SMEs, more Ukrainian companies. The approach that we envisage is going to be phased. During the first phase, we will be focusing on supporting existing clients and mostly on shorter term instruments. Also food security and housing for IDPs. In fact, we have agreed with our donors, the European Union and the government of Germany, to repurpose $50 million funding to go towards helping municipalities with refurbishing some of the municipal buildings so that they could provide for temporary housing for IDPs. And of course, in the second phase, we will be looking more at the capital investment, reconstruction of infrastructure. So all of the longer term investment that is going to happen once we win in this war. In order for us to prepare for this, IFC signed a memorandum of understanding with the government of Ukraine to become a strategic advisor on PPP transactions and also other means and other ways of bringing the private sector into the country. So that dialogue has already started. Predominantly, it's going with the Ministry of Economy and also Ministry of Infrastructure. We're also partnering with the business associations. Huge thanks to Sergei for being, and Ukraine Invest for being a good partner, because Ukraine is going to need a lot of partnerships, and we are ready. We're standing by Ukraine. We are ready to provide support and financing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Voloshyna. You know, there is an opportunity also for IFC to work with other bilateral partners, such as, you know, the USDFC and others. So you mentioned, you know, risk sharing, which is very important, and insurance. So